Donald Trump has just claimed a legal power no president before him has ever had. He has declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect a set of pardons Joe Biden gave to lawmakers investigating Donald Trump's role in the January 6th riots. Now, Trump posting this on social media has the same legal force of shouting it into the wind, because none of what he claims is supported by any evidence at all. And there's no precedent for any completed pardon ever being revoked, full stop. But for Trump, that may be besides the point, because even when he can't legally do something, he's willing to say he can, and that has serious consequences we can explore. The first thing worth establishing here is that presidential pardons, once issued, are final.
Presidential pardons cannot be revoked.
A presidential pardon is final and irrevocable.
This is kind of just one of those perks of being president. Tough job, but you gain extremely broad clemency power. In a Supreme Court decision going back more than 150 years, the power of pardon conferred by the Constitution upon the president is unlimited, except the one thing you can't pardon, which is cases of impeachment. And just in case there was any ambiguity, this pardon power extends to every offense known to the law. So this is as close to absolute power as you can get. And this power includes a kind of implied invincibility shield surrounding the pardon itself. They can't be undone.
There are some judicial decisions stating that once a pardon is delivered, it's complete and it cannot be taken back. And also, there have been a lot of Supreme Court decisions saying that the president's power to pardon is absolute and it can't be undermined subsequently.
The closest any president has ever come to revoking a pardon has been when the pardon is still in transit, so to speak. That happened in 1869 when the incoming president, Ulysses Grant, revoked a pardon issued by the outgoing president, Andrew Johnson. A judge ruled the message of a formal pardon hadn't actually physically reached the recipient before it was revoked, so it could be canceled. And something very similar happened again under George W. Bush when he pardoned a real estate developer, but pulled it back before that developer had actually received any formal notification of the pardon itself. But beyond those kinds of examples, where the pardon was revoked before it was completed, there's no precedent at all for one president overturning the pardons of another.
They are final. A subsequent president can't overturn earlier presidents' pardons.
Yes, except Donald Trump has an angle.
The man was grossly incompetent. All you have to do is take a look at he signs by autopen. Who was signing all this stuff by autopen?
If you've never heard of an autopen, I don't blame you. It's basically a robot, like a machine, that knows your signature and can copy it with a real pen on real paper. Celebrities might use one if they need to autograph hundreds or thousands of things, and presidents of the United States have certainly used them as well.
Presidents travel a lot, for example. They may not have the time or be in a place where they can actually sign a document.
The material signature has much less significance than previously, so it's really a matter of convenience more than anything else.
They have to sign a lot of things. They also have a lot of other things to do. And so it's just more efficient to have the machine do it.
It's been widely reported Joe Biden has used an autopen on official documents before. So has Barack Obama. And you can go back further than that. JFK, Harry Truman, autopens are not new. Even Donald Trump uses them, sometimes.
Have you yourself ever used autopens, sir?
Yeah, only for very unimportant papers. And I don't call them unimportant. If you do letters where people write in and, they'd love to have a response, or we'll write responses, and I'll sign them whenever I can, but when I can't, I, would use an autopen.
But contrast that with how Trump feels about autopens when it comes to however it is he thinks Joe Biden uses autopens.
You don't use autopen. It's, number one, it's disrespectful to the office. Number two, maybe it's not even valid.
What does he mean there, not even valid? Well, going back to Trump's post on Truth Social, he says Biden's pardons are void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by autopen. First of all, did Joe Biden use an autopen to sign pardons? Maybe, We don't know, because instead of making a claim here based on evidence, Trump is just making a claim. For whatever it's worth, I should point out, we have seen photographs of Biden signing pardons by hand. But even if he did use an autopen on some occasion, there is nothing in US law that invalidates pardons simply because it wasn't your literal hand holding the pen whose ink touches the page.
There's no statute that would suggest that using an autopen would undermine the president's authority in completing an act, whether it's signing a statute or signing a pardon.
There's no real controversy over the use of autopens for official declarations.
In fact, it was under the Bush administration in 2005. The Department of Justice issued a legal memo providing a bit of clarity on this point. We conclude that the president need not personally perform the physical act of affixing his signature to a bill he approves. And it specifically says a perfectly reasonable alternative is directing a subordinate to affix the president's signature to such a bill, for example, by autopen. And maybe this is all besides the point anyway, because there is nothing in the constitutional clause on presidential pardons that says anything at all about signatures to begin with. The words sign or signature just aren't there. So, experts say, what constitutional basis would there be to challenge the type of pen used? But Trump goes one step further. He makes yet another claim without any supporting evidence at all. Joe Biden did not sign them, referring to the pardon documents, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden.
Because, who's getting him to sign? He had no idea what the hell he was doing.
And here we get to the summit of Trump's unproven accusation that so many Biden pardons were signed with an autopen as a way of getting his signature behind his back. It's hard to even know what to do with a wild claim like that, but let's try.
It's a really bold claim to say that a president of the United States did not know that pardons were being issued in his name. Presidents generally know who they're pardoning, but it's another example of Trump treating reality, Trump treating truth as something that's up for debate.
Biden knew about the preemptive pardons he granted. They were discussed widely in the media before he'd even signed the documents, and Biden himself issued a statement explaining them. In certain cases, some public servants have even been threatened with criminal prosecutions, including the members and staff of the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. It goes on. That is why I am exercising my authority under the Constitution to pardon the members of Congress and staff who served on the Select Committee. But none of this should need saying to begin with, because as I said at the start, even for Trump, this is very likely besides the point. He doesn't always need to actually do anything to achieve an outcome. He only needs to say it.
What we're really seeing here is this effort by Trump to sort of undo as much of the Biden administration as possible.
Very shortly after Trump made his declaration that Biden's pardons were null and void, the White House press secretary reframed inaccurately what he had stated as fact.
The president was begging the question that I think a lot of journalists in this room should be asking about whether or not the former president of the United States, who I think we can all finally agree was cognitively impaired. I know it took people some time to finally admit that.
And then she gets sidetracked by that, but goes on to make her point.
But the president was raising the point that did the president even know about these pardons? Was his legal signature used without his consent or knowledge?
So first of all, no, that's not what the president was doing. He wasn't simply raising provocative rhetorical questions. The president stated unequivocally, the pardons are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. But this tactic of taking an absolutist position, even one with no obvious tether to reality, and then just throwing it out there,
And so I think it's a question that everybody in this room should be looking into, because certainly that would propose perhaps criminal or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the President of the United States autograph without his consent.
If I'm going to accuse a student of academic dishonesty on an exam or an assignment, I had better have all of my ducks in a row and have all of my evidence lined up before I call them into my office.
Consent
is on the record talking about issuing preemptive pardons to these people.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter, you should find out.
But the truth may not matter here, because Trump has achieved at least two things. He has attacked and undermined the previous administration with claims that don't even need to be true to be effective. And he has hinted at a more fundamental fact, that his political enemies are subject to investigation at the highest level. Pardons be damned.
All a pardon does is eliminate any criminal consequences for an action.
That doesn't shield them from any other kinds of investigation.
Because even if the conclusion of any potential case against a pardon recipient is simply for that case to be thrown out because that person was granted a pardon, there's the investigation, there's the media coverage, there's the smear, and the toll of being dragged through the legal ringer. Damage can be done, pardon or not.